Hi, I'm Olivia Reynolds with Healing Hearts Trauma. This is the part 2 on conflict resolution and communication skills. I'm going to be posting several other content. You can follow me on YouTube, and you can follow me also on Facebook at healingheartstrauma.com, as well as Healing Hearts at YouTube. All right, so we're going to finish into this communication blocks. Remember, the goal of communication is to be able to take the 4 steps: active listening, deciding who's the listener, who's the receiver of the message, learning how to effectively receive information without making it about us. The goal is to resolute the other person. We'll actually communicate a lot more effectively if we can break it down into segments, and it sounds ridiculous, but to have good communication skills, it means to be able to do what it takes to hear our partners and to make a resolution. So we talked about sparring in the last segment. That's where we left off. Excuse me. Just getting over a cold. So the part of sparring we talked about was discounting and put downs, right? Put downs is again like, yeah, well, maybe if you studied for that test, you would have passed it, right? So it's kind of be passive aggressive, sarcastic kind of things that we'll say to our partners to put them down and start a fight, right? They're going to be riffs. They're passive. Direct communication is be able to say, hey, I feel very frustrated when blank, 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 blank. This is what I need from you, right? Being able to effectively say. And sometimes we might have to repeat it a few times for the message to be heard. Because if the person's not in the lens to hear, depending on how communication has been. We talked about being right. That one is a killer. It's hard. You don't have to be right. I have learned to say, you know what? I don't have to be right anymore. You're right. You just believe what you need to believe. We don't need to fight over this. It's not worth it. Derailing. Squirrel. We're going to be in a conversation. I'm like, oh, did you just see what that was out the window, right? We're going to just find a way to not have this conversation. Placating. Everyone does this. You do it when you go to church. You'll hear someone say, oh, wow, you look amazing. That's great. That's fantastic. Yes. So you're just basically telling the person what they want to hear. You don't really care about what they're saying. You're not really listening. You're just expressing to them like, this is fantastic. Because then suddenly Susan might be out of your way, right? I don't really want to have this conversation. I'm just going to pretend like I care, right? So we got through the blocks. I would say the biggest ones are filtering. Well, not filtering. I would say judging, sparring. I mean, who doesn't fight, right? Identifying. We all have conversations where we feel like we're identifying with people. Oh, yeah, I had cancer too. Or, oh, yeah, I had this too. It's always like when someone's trying to talk about something, we want to relate to them because we believe in communication. That's what we need to do, is be able to relate instead of just being, wow, that must have been really hard for you, or that must have sucked. And sometimes, just we get burned out of doing that depending on how the conversations have been going. Again, communication requires a lot of technique and skill. And if there's a lot of fusion going on, a lot of friction going on, and we just haven't had this real conversation sit down, we need to have them. There's a difference from, again, day-to-day communication, check-ins. How are you doing? How's work? Those kind of things. Those are needed for our love languages and being able to truly just be there and but when we're talking about regular conversations like that are important, we need to set these rules of the conflict skills to be able to say, hey, we're not going to have heated or important discussions when it's like the middle of the day. I want us to sit and take time to actually effectively communicate. The person should come in with some type of bullet points, and we should have a devised plan so we stay on track. Because often what happens, especially if you're not resoluting ever, you're going to have people pulling out things from 1995, right? They're going to start throwing hand grenades at you, and you're going to be like, where the hell did that come from, right? Because most people are passive. They don't want the conflict. They don't want to have these conversations because they can be exhausting. But once you learn how to successfully do these in an appropriate way and set the contract, it's going to go smooth. Again, conflict should be swift. It should be with a resolution of some sort. And then you go back to the harmonious levels of relationship. We should not be spending this much time. Most people, when they come in the couples therapy, there are 3 things they come in for. The number one reason is communication, and lack of conflict resolution, and then the intimacy goes down. So when these two things are out of whack because we're not getting along and we're fighting and we're not resoluting, then the intimacy is just going down and down and down. We would rather be at the intimacy stage because that's where we're in the bliss stage. Most couples go through it's called the 5 stages of a relationship. The power struggle stage is where most people stay because this is where it requires us to really dig deep and work on these things before giving up. Once you can get through that, then you have the forever bliss stage. Most people start in a honeymoon stage, but you can interchangeably move around these stages. And some people start right here because they have connections, and then this hits them and they have to learn to navigate this step. Once they can navigate that, then the rest of the relationship will be through the bliss stage, which is quite beautiful. But again, it takes consistency, perseverance, and really being able to sit down and have these real conversations, and someone being that container. Again, when our inner child is wounded, these are going to be the behaviors that start coming out, and you just sometimes cannot help them. So the Immokalee model likes to really talk about like how we can be a container and not become emotionally involved when the other person is truly going through something hard. But the container should always be evolved and switched. It shouldn't be like every time you're the container for me, but depending on the conversation, and really being able to sit with the person and say, wow, how awful that must have been for you to, have your mom screaming and yelling at you all the time. What would be different, or, what do you need to move through that so you're not reliving that? Or what can I do differently so that I'm not projecting those types of things onto you to where you project back to me? So there's a lot of dialogue in this. It's really helpful for couples to learn and sit and go through it and learn how to communicate, learn how to mirror each other. There's a whole section on mirroring. Mirroring is really powerful in relationships because sometimes we don't see ourselves. We really don't. And so a good mirror example is going to show the other person how they're behaving, right? And so when we meet someone, we're looking in the mirror, usually because we oppositely attract. So you might be attracting someone that you want what they have, and the other one's what you have. So for example, my typical type might be more introverted, and we're going to discuss that in another video. I have the introvert advantage and the extrovert advantage, and how, again, so many theories of all this stuff is like introverts and extroverts date each other, avoidance and anxious date each other, and so on and so forth. But the goal is learning that, okay, I typically date introverts because what I really want to be, what I see myself as, is what I think introverts are very intelligent, very quiet. They keep to themselves. They don't need a lot of external and internal validation. They can be quiet and calm. Now, the goal is to become mixed, and the older we get, we do become mixed. I'm more of a mix now because I quite enjoy being alone and I don't need the energy as often. I get it where I need it. But the introvert needs to learn how to get the extrovert's advantage, which is being able to have that social game, be able to go out and pick up that energy, because extroverts, we thrive on energy from other people. Sometimes their energy can be loud and noisy. And so we gotta understand we're not polluting our energy. Because again, if you go around a lot of people that have a lot of Akasha record, like voids in there, and just something you look up, because the universe is where all the records are stored from all of our inner child wounds that we've never healed. And we'll keep meeting these people and hitting these walls with those wounds until we sit down with each other and really just say, all right, look, these are my wounds. This is my weakness. I really want to get through this. Let's get through this together, hold each other, and be the container for one another to heal, because it's quite beautiful. If you really care about someone, you're going to go through this process of learning how to do it. You need to do work alone, obviously, but there's a lot you can do with another person, because sometimes you can't really process stuff by yourself, and you really need to feel the feelings and allow someone to embrace them for you and let you know, like, hey, I'm so sorry you got hurt. I'm so sorry that you didn't deserve that, and hold them and really embrace those feelings. So I'm Olivia with Healing Hearts Trauma. This is on conflict resolution and communication, learning the blocks, learning how to resolute within at least 24 hours of any type. You just keep going at it. If you call the code word and it doesn't work that time, you go back to the drawing board, write your bullet points back, come back, take turns communicating, find a resolution. If you're going 2, 3, 4 days and weeks and months and not talking, this is bad. This is going to follow you in every single relationship. These are going to be pattern behaviors of how we shut down and we just avoid people, and we need to learn how to effectively communicate. Again, Healing Hearts Trauma, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and on TikTok. Thanks. Bye. Have a great day.